Hello and welcome to another Teacher Talk with Vimbo, where I share a lot of really fun tips for you to use in your classroom. And this week, I am so excited to share with you my suggestions for holiday read alouds in your classroom as the holidays are right around the corner. So let's jump right in. So hello again, my name is Vimbo and I served as an elementary school principal for 5 years. And before that, I was a classroom teacher. I currently do not work in education, but I still have a big heart for what happens in the classroom. And so with that, I just am always thinking of teacher ideas that I want to share with my educator friends, even my educator internet friends. And so I have some read aloud suggestions. Now, the first thing I want to say is my primary experience in the classroom was with lower elementary. So I've taught pre-K and kindergarten, I've taught first grade, and I've taught second grade. I did teach like the upper grades as well. So I've had a lot of varied teaching experience, but I really had a soft spot for teaching, especially first and second grade. My bachelor's degree is in elementary education, but my emphasis, my concentration was in language arts and reading. And one of my favorite classes in college, over a decade ago, when I was learning to become a teacher, was teaching beginning reading, because I just think literacy is so important for children. I think teaching them the love of learning and the love of reading from a young age is just really vital to their development. And I just think books change your life. Stories can just change the trajectory of who you become. So I am off my reading soapbox. I am sharing a few holiday recommendations for books you can share in your classroom. And one tip for implementing any of these books that I'm sharing is realize if you are a teacher and you are counting down the days until Christmas break, that's okay. That is perfectly normal. Give yourself a lot of grace. I found that the way to actually make it through December without losing your mind is to put in as many fun but educational activities throughout your planning as much as possible, because the kids are also restless as well and they're also counting down the days. So with these read alouds, and like I said, because I taught lower elementary for quite a bit of my teaching time, I would strongly recommend these books for a kindergarten, a first grade, a second grade, maybe even a third grade classroom, but they're definitely geared towards more early elementary, when children are still learning how to read. I think my college professor put it this way. They said, before third grade, children are still learning how to read. After third grade, children are reading to learn. So it's really crucial that in those first few grades, they actually learn how to read, or then now their learning is coming through these books and they need to be able to read them, their textbooks and stuff. But I digress. The point is, as you're reading some of these Christmas books, I hope that in your classroom, to the degree that you are able, I don't want to add more pressure to you, but maybe kids, are able to have a pajama day before Christmas break, or, have a hot chocolate party, something low cost or no cost, but also celebrating the joy of reading. And I wanted to also say this really quick before I share I have five read aloud suggestions. These books are on a variety of holiday topics. Of course, there is Christmas, which is probably the largest holiday celebrated around this time, both in the US and around the world. But I also have some books about other holidays that students in your classroom may be celebrating. And I just think it's so fun to introduce these different topics to your students and talk about it. And then after you do the read aloud, I've often found when I add, if I have an extra copy of the book I did the read aloud for, when I add it to my library of my classroom library, I'll have students take it out during library time and look at it again. And remember, I just want to tell you this because I remember talking to a younger teacher a few years ago where they were like, My first graders, all they do is like look at the pictures. They don't actually read the word and the words in the book. And I want to share with you, if you know anything about literacy, children looking at pictures in books, depending on their reading level, but the lower reading levels where they're just emerging readers, that is actually considered reading. So you're doing just fine, teacher. If the kid just looks at the book pictures after you've read the book in class, that is them engaging with the text and making sense and meaning of the story. So with all of that literacy happiness out of the way, I want to share with you 5 books that you can introduce to your class this holiday season. The first book is called How to Catch a Snowman. And I love this book. It is such a cute, quirky story. It kind of gives me the vibes of the books, like the book series, what is it called? If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, because it's part of a series. So the book I'm recommending is How to Catch a Snowman. But if you go on Amazon or to any bookstore, there are actually different ones you can also check out as well. And a few of them are holiday themed. But How to Catch a Snowman, very cute, fun little quirky, light-hearted story. And I think your students will enjoy you reading it out loud and adding, just different forms of, enthusiasm to your read alouds. The second book I would recommend you sharing with your classroom is The Night Before Kwanzaa. And why I really like this book is because by reading the book The Night Before Kwanzaa, there are also other activities you can introduce and you can do related to the holiday Kwanzaa. And I found, in my teaching, Teacher Pay Teacher is a great place to go and find teacher-created resources that are standards aligned. So don't just pick up any piece of junk that is just cute to do. Make sure there is meaning behind the activities you're doing. But you can find coordinating activities that you can do that relate to the holiday of Kwanzaa. So The Night Before Kwanzaa, I would highly recommend that book. I think it's also very beautifully illustrated and just a very meaningful book about Kwanzaa. The next book I will recommend is called The Story of Hanukkah by David Adler. And I learned a lot about Hanukkah just by what's shared in this book and other books that I've read at the child level, kids' books that are written about Hanukkah. And so once again, I love that by reading this book, The Story of Hanukkah, to your class, whether or not there are Jewish children in your classroom or children who celebrate Hanukkah, your kids can get exposed to a different culture and you can do things in your classroom. A lot of times with these different things, whether it was the book about Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or even the snowman book, I would always love to do something sensory with it. So with Hanukkah, if there is someone in your school community who can help you and guide you with maybe making food with the kids or just doing something that is related to what you learn in an authentic way, right? Like we don't want to culturally appropriate, but it's cool to engage with the culture and learn more about the people who are neighbors and our friends. Book number 4, of course, I can leave out little baby Jesus. This one is called Lullaby for a King. Ooh, I love me some brown baby Jesus because we know Jesus was a brown man in the Middle East, a brown Jewish man in the Middle East many, many years ago. And, whether you're Christian or not, Jesus existed. Historians all agree that there was a man named Jesus who this Bible, especially the New Testament, is crafted after. And so Lullaby for a King is just talk about beautiful illustrations. Lullaby for a King is a beautiful book that, I really have enjoyed sharing with my loved ones. And I can't recommend this one enough. And obviously it goes with the Christian Christmas tradition. And so I really personally like it. I would recommend you sharing this with your younger students. And I wanted to throw in one final book called Little Red Sleigh. This book was a surprise hit. And it's one of those books where it's a holiday book, it's a winter book, it's a Christmas book, but it's really a book that is teaching children how to handle life's challenges. And so you're building that social emotional learning in not a preachy way. And I just love when books have those lessons that can lead to deeper conversations, because even at the first and the second grade level, your students are surprisingly able to have a really deep, beautiful conversations about, I don't know, self-compassion, self-courage, moving forward, and different things like that. So without giving too much away, Little Red Sleigh is a book I would absolutely highly recommend as a winter read aloud. So those are my 5 top recommendations this year. If you have any other Christmas read aloud books that you think would be good in the classroom, I'd love for you to comment below. And otherwise, regardless of whatever holiday you celebrate, or if it's none at all and you just are like, runaway world, whatever the case is, I do hope that you are having a wonderful season, and I will see you again next Sunday for our next version of Teacher Time. Bye-bye now.